have to really escalate the noise we make so that we'll be heard.
Welcome to Gay USA and Mele Kalikimaka. I'm Andy Hum.
He hasn't turned Hawaiian, but he's fond of the phrase. I'm Ann Northrop. I'll just say Merry Christmas.
The president said it the other day. He is Hawaiian, though.
We know you're seeing us Christmas night, or even a day or two later. We're going to try to carry the Christmas spirit through the weekend for you. That's why I'm wearing red and my little Christmas tree. But first, let's talk about the actual hard news this week.
Starting with the fact that we bring you great tidings in Florida. The same-sex marriages will commence there on January 6th.
Unless they throw a monkey wrench into it.
I was going to say if the fates allow. But the Supreme Court has not would not continue the stay there.
To be explained, yes. But the U.S. Supreme Court on January 9th, which is their next conference date, will discuss whether to take, they have a plate of at least 5 marriage cases they could possibly take at the moment, maybe more.
Don't get your hopes up now, because it doesn't mean that they're going to take them then. They're just going to start discussing it.
Yeah.
The U.S. Justice Department will fight discrimination based on gender identity now, saying it's sex discrimination.
They have seen the light. Illinois advances the rights of unmarried partners.
The Michigan License to Discriminate Religious Freedom bill was stopped for now.
Yeah, I expect it to be reintroduced next year. Normalization of U.S. relations with Cuba, good for the gays, bad for the gays? Discuss.
Okay. Government-sponsored thugs in Zimbabwe beat participants at a gathering of LGBT activists.
Not good for the gays. But in China, a gay activist has scored an historic victory in court.
I'm going to review a new British import called Every Brilliant Thing at the Barrow Street Theater. If you can't stick around, give it a thumbs up, 2 thumbs up maybe.
We think our most popular show in all of last year was the one where all we did was run video clips and didn't talk much ourselves. So
true.
In that spirit, we have a few video clips saved up for the end of this show that we think you'll enjoy.
And so we're going to zip through the news now, starting in Florida.
Right.
The big news was that Clarence Thomas would not continue the stay.
Well, that's not entirely true. What happened was that, you know, I must be precise about this. Courts have overturned the marriage ban in Florida. It's moving up to the 11th Circuit. But meanwhile, the right to marry has been put on hold, has been stayed pending the 11th Circuit taking a look at this. So our side, LGBT activists, petitioned for the stay, or I'm sorry, the stay had an end date on it. The Attorney General of Florida petitioned the Supreme Court to extend the stay.
The evil Pam Bondi.
Yes. Clarence Thomas is the Supreme Court justice with jurisdiction over the 11th Circuit or Florida or whatever, so it went to him. He did not make the decision on his own. He referred it to the entire court. And the entire court refused to extend the stay, but Scalia and Thomas, the two of them, dissented from that decision.
As they always do.
Well, we'll see what they do in the end, but Thomas would have extended the stay, but could not in the face of the rest of the court.
I would ask you some more questions about that, but we're pressed for time.
But this court decision that they're arguing about staying really only applies technically to one county. So then the question became, all right, so the stay ends at the end of January 5th. Marriages can start January 6th. But what about the rest of Florida? And then they went back and forth about whether or not clerks in other counties could issue marriage licenses.
Well, you've got this law firm representing the clerks trying to stop this and say it's should only happen in Washington County.
And that clerks who issue licenses outside of that county are subject to prosecution, and therefore clerks in some of these other counties are looking at that legal advice from a right-wing law group and saying, well, I'm not going to issue licenses. But in fact, the state's attorney says, we're not going to prosecute other clerks who issue licenses, and the feeling is that if other clerks refuse to issue licenses, they in fact can be sued by our side for not issuing licenses.
And they've already granted the first divorce down there in Florida of a same-sex couple.
A judge in Broward County granted a divorce to a lesbian couple who actually weren't married. They had received a civil union in Vermont some years ago. But it, in essence, recognizes out-of-state unions, marriages, whatever.
Well, and by the way, Orlando Mayor Buddy Dyer will officiate at a big gay wedding there in, I guess, in City Hall or wherever they do them. And the other significance of this is the first time the Supreme Court has not stayed,
not extended a stay
in the absence of an appeal court decision.
Right, it hasn't made it to the 11th Circuit yet.
Which is not, but the 11th Circuit doesn't want to hear it,
it's on track to be heard at the 11th Circuit. But this stay concerned a lower court ruling overturning the ban in this county. And you're right, the Supreme Court seems to have no more appetite for stopping same-sex marriages at any level.
And it looks like, so let's talk about January 9th.
Yes.
So
January 6th in Florida, same-sex marriage becomes legal. And there are a lot of gay people living in Florida who've been waiting for this.
Yes.
So congratulations to you.
Yes. So the Supreme Court, has its conference to decide what cases to take, and they'd already put on that meeting agenda the Louisiana case, which is out of the 5th Circuit, and then now,
which has not been decided by a circuit court yet either.
Also, and now looks like they're going to take up the cases of Tennessee, Michigan, Ohio, and Kentucky from the 6th Circuit.
Right.
Those are the cases where the circuit court said these bans on same-sex marriage are constitutional. That's where they have the split. So this is the big moment.
Plus, a lot of the states where same-sex marriage has been legalized a lot of the right wing are still asking the Supreme Court to review those circuit court decisions. So they could put any mix of states into this or not. They could still punt on this.
They could let it stay in effect out there in Michigan and all those places and say, no, you can't have same-sex marriage if they don't. And they could put this off till the next term. But it doesn't seem to be the way it's trending.
It does not. And it seems if Scalia and Thomas are the only ones remaining who are opposed to legalizing same-sex marriage, and the others, Alito and Roberts and Kennedy, have thrown in the towel, then I think it's a pretty good bet that the Supreme Court will announce after their January 9th conference that they are taking some combination of state cases, and we should have a decision by June that will apply nationally.
And our side is feeling its oats. In Idaho, a court ordered the state to pay more than $400,000 in court costs for our side in the marriage cases.
Yep.
And Butch Otter there, the governor, is still resisting this in some way in the Ninth Circuit.
And he's asking the Supreme Court to overturn the Ninth Circuit decision. They're all fighting this still, but that's why it's more likely than not to be taken up by the Supreme Court to get a final decision sometime sooner rather than later.
And our friend James Essex from the ACLU is getting into the act. Not that he hasn't been all along, but he's asking, getting the ACLU involved in the Kentucky case, joining the appeal to the Supreme Court on that one.
Well, I think everybody sees the Supreme Court about to take some version of these cases, and so everybody wants to have a horse to ride, if I may use the appropriate Kentucky analogy, to the Supreme Court. Everybody wants to be involved. The only people we haven't heard from are Olson and Boyce. Yes. They may have given up this.
In other places, they would want a dog in the hunt.
Illinois, however, is doing something a little different, which is great. The Illinois Court of Appeals says that unmarried partners can assert property claims in court.
Now, they had an odd law there for 35 years, which is not that long ago, which basically treated these relationships as illicit and therefore no access to the courts to resolve your cases.
Well, as I've told you, the person most affected by this ruling is Judge Judy.
Why?
Well, I occasionally catch her just to be appalled by her attitude. And one of her most appalling attitudes is that she will say to unmarried couples who come together, come into the court trying to iron out something in their relationship, she'll say, courts have no time for people who are not legally married. You have no standing in a court of law. If you are not willing to go sign a piece of paper, you have no right to be here. We are not going to waste our time on you.
And that was the law in Illinois until now.
Well, now Judge Judy may have to rethink her approach and start dealing with these cases.
In Nebraska, a state inmate and his transgender fiance are asking to join the challenge to the state ban on same-sex marriage. And you know, as you know, people in prison do have a right to get married.
Well, they do, but what's hilarious about this is that all the national LGBT legal groups and organizations have spent years hand-picking the plaintiffs in all these cases to be, you know, just perfect little avatars of rectitude in the community, and now you have this prison couple asking to join the suit, and the gay groups are a little wary of this.
No, we shouldn't be, because it reminds people that marriage is a right.
Yes.
And that prisoners have been asserting it for a long time.
Yep.
So you ought to be able to let us do it.
A human right across the board.
All right.
Congratulations to those married in the last week. Elton John and David Furnish, as we told you they were going to, finally officially tied the knot after 20 years together.
Place, yes.
Also well, they made theirs a sort of online event, and everything was social media'd.
And Lance Bass married Michael Turchin, is that his name? I think it is. He's joined, they were joined by most of the NSYNC bandmates, but Justin Timberlake was on tour, so he couldn't come.
But that is being turned into a special for the E! Network, so you can watch that whole thing. And perhaps of more interest, a couple whose picture we have, Charles Hunter, who is the U.S. Consul General in Istanbul, Turkey, is marrying his Turkish partner,
Ramadan Kaysever, Caysever. But they're going to have to do it back in Wisconsin, where the Consul General is from, because it's not legal in Turkey.
Not legal in Turkey. Ramadan is a pop star in Turkey.
Big one.
Yes, and there's quite a lot of astonishment in Turkey over this
Could shake things
eventuality.
Up there. All right.
All right. Other news. There was a little back and forth with the Mormons this week. First, there was an announcement that the Mormon Church was supporting a non-discrimination law in Utah covering sexual orientation and gender identity and expression for employment and housing. And then there was a little backlash to that announcement. And so there was an update on their announcement, and it turns out they said, no, this was just, remember we supported that in Salt Lake City in 2009? That's really what we were talking about.
But if you're going to support it in localities, why not in the whole state? It's because Salt Lake City isn't very Mormon. It's majority non-Mormon, actually.
And pretty liberal.
And the rest of the state, yes, very liberal mayor there, Ralph, it'll come to me.
Is he still the mayor?
No, it was all right. Not Rocky. It's not Rocky anymore.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, in Texas, we're going to get the first out gay federal judge. The Senate confirmed Robert Pittman to a seat that has been open for 6 years.
In Washington, the Department of Justice, memo from Attorney General, exiting Attorney General Holder.
If they'll confirm the new one.
Yes. he announced that the Justice Department henceforth will accept the interpretation of Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 as covering discrimination against transgender people as sex discrimination.
Now, that's a reversal of their previous position on this, but they also ought to include sexual orientation in that. We've already got one federal case that does that, and then we wouldn't need this federal gay rights law.
Well, there are more there are conflicting court cases, but there are court cases that uphold this interpretation, and there is, of course, the famous case at the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, the Mia Macy case, that asserts this, and the Department of Justice is, well, it's like when they changed their position on marriage equality too. That was a big change, and now they're changing it on discrimination on the basis of gender identity or expression.
In Indiana, the Court of Appeals there granted a trans man an amended birth certificate. They said all the applicant is going to have to do is show good faith and present ample evidence of transition. It took them a full year to get this changed. It should be easier for folks in the future.
Tim Cook, the Apple CEO, has announced a big donation, although the amount has not been specified, to the Human Rights Campaign for their Project One America in Alabama, Arkansas, and Mississippi.
That guy who tried to sue all the Hollywood executives for molesting him when he was a kid, he eventually dropped the suit. He now faces a $5 million fine and 40 years in prison for defrauding investors, not for what he did to the executives. He's now 32 years old. Michael Egan lives in North Carolina.
Hard to know what's going on there. In Michigan, they did beat back the religious freedom right to discriminate bill for the moment, not passing in this year's legislature, but
passed one of the houses.
It passed the House. It did not pass the Senate, but it is expected to be reintroduced next year. And hello to the Michigan viewers who sent us a nice Christmas card, but without any names attached, just saying Merry Christmas from your Michigan viewers.
Thank you.
Thanks.
In Virginia, the ACLU is suing Gloucester County schools for adopting a bathroom policy that segregates trans students from using restrooms and locker rooms that they identify with and that their peers are allowed to use.
Well, the trans students have been using the appropriate restrooms for their current gender identity without incident, without complaint, but now the schools have suddenly decided that's no good and they're banning it, so the ACLU is suing.
Why are they so mean? It's the Christmas season.
Yeah. And the ACLU is suing North Putnam High School in Indiana, which... You're so retro, North Putnam High School. You refused to sanction a gay-straight alliance in the high school. You were going to lose. They all lose. Get over yourselves.
Now, what do you think about this case at Marquette University, where Professor John McAdams, clearly
I think so little of it that I didn't even make note of it.
But I think it is significant.
It's hard to understand.
Professor John McAdams, clearly a conservative. He was put on leave, and suspended with pay for publicly criticizing a teaching assistant for refusing to allow a discussion on same-sex marriage in class. The teaching assistant had said that gay people might have been present and made uncomfortable if someone said that they didn't support same-sex marriage. I don't think we can go there. I think you stop people from using bad words and things like that, but you can't stop a discussion of a public issue.
Completely agree.
I'm concerned that we can go overboard on these things.
Yeah, well, speech rules on campus have gotten quite arcane. And you might want to take a look at a new publication from the ACLU, Know Your Rights, Laws, Court Decisions, and Advocacy Tips to Protect Transgender Prisoners, available at aclu.org.
Right.
International news?
Yes. Well, in Egypt, the trial has started for the 26 men who were arrested in the bathhouse, essentially. They were quickly sent to trial for charging related to homosexuality, even though homosexual acts are not forbidden by law.
Debauchery.
And we've learned that the woman who, the quote-unquote journalist who did this, Mona Araki, her name is, she exposed it and she got the arrest going. She is head of the International Short Film Festival internationally in 8 countries. So our Scott Long, who was at the trial, used to work at Human Rights Watch, is asking people to stop her from having a job like that.
Scott Long's reporting on the trial, by the way, is well worth reading on his blog at paper-bird.net, I think.
I'm not, I don't know it exactly. Just Google Paper Bird and Scott Long, it'll come up.
Yes. There was an attempt to get the 26 arrestees out of jail. No good. They're still in jail. Their families were thrown out of the courtroom, and now it turns out there are a lot of home raids going on against LGBT people. About 150 people have been arrested in the last year.
Very bad atmosphere.
Everybody's going underground. It's really, and they performed anal exams on these guys who were arrested at the bathhouse.
Even though the act is not supposed to be illegal.
Yeah.
All right. And the Alliance Defense Fund, which is so busy here, the right-wing legal group, is now going to be exporting bigotry. They plan offices in Europe and India.
They now call themselves, actually, the Alliance Defending Freedom.
Oh.
And the memo has a long list of countries that they're going into, and it's very scary stuff.
Very scary. But better news from China, where a Beijing court ordered a clinic to pay Chongqing Jinyu Piaojing, who's 30 years old, $563 for attempting to cure him of homosexuality. The clinic also has to publicly apologize, and there's an investigation about whether their license is valid. So this is huge. He took a big chance by suing. Yep. Everybody thought it was he wasn't going to go anywhere with this, and that's real progress there in China.
A little good news before we get to the bad news. In Taiwan, a legislative committee has started the consideration of marriage that we've been working towards for a while there.
Oh, and we're normalizing relations with Cuba. Good, and we asked at the beginning, good for the gays. When I think of Cuba, one of the first demonstrations in the history of the United States for gays publicly was gay people protesting what was going on in Cuba in the mid-'60s. I don't know why they chose that issue, given all the terrible things that were happening here, but they did, because they were locking people up and for a good long time for homosexuality. And they've obviously made progress on that issue, and it's certainly about time.
Some would say yes, some would say no.
No progress?
Well, there's the sort of official Mariela Castro clique that operates okay, but there are also dissident gays in Cuba who are not treated well and who are still fighting the government there. It's a mixed bag, and
not to be too stereotypical, but when we get to move in and they can see what we can do for the neighborhood, they'll be.
We'll see.
Well, people have to get to know us. In
Mexicali, Baja California, where we thought there was going to be illegal same-sex marriage a couple of weeks ago, but it got stopped. A lot of nonsense about paperwork not being right. The men who were planning to get married have now had their paperwork approved. Their marriage is rescheduled for January 10th. We expect it to happen. And in Japan, a couple of actresses announced there, who are fairly well known, announced that they will marry next year, although same-sex marriage is not yet legal in Japan.
Big celebrity wedding.
Yeah.
And in Taiwan, same-sex marriage is under legislative review. It's the first...
As I just said.
Okay. Sorry.
That's okay.
I was going to say that, but it is the first one to be debated in an East Asian parliament.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Bad news. In Zimbabwe, the gays and lesbians of Zimbabwe, who are a long-standing, very brave group, were holding a private event, and it was crashed and attacked by 12 to 15 people who are thought to be representatives of the government or egged on by them.
They had guns. They beat them with logs, iron bars, empty beer bottles, and clenched fists. This was a Gauls event, gays and lesbians of Zimbabwe in Harare. And,
35 people injured.
Absolutely horrendous. In Uganda, they promised us the anti-gay bill by Christmas. But I guess we're just going to have to wait till next year because it didn't happen. They promised it as a Christmas present.
And even more stunning, LGBT Ugandans are publishing their own magazine called Bombastic, both in print and online. You may be able to find this online, Bombastic. It is 75 pages long. It is the voices of LGBT Ugandans, coming out stories, stories of lost jobs, stories about religious issues. Really amazing that they are moving ahead with that.
But in Poland, the bill to allow gender-neutral registered partnerships failed for the third time, but the vote was 185 to 235 with 18 abstentions, so we're getting there.
It would also have legalized registered partnerships for straight couples, and
Yes.
They didn't get any farther either.
Gender neutral.
And really horrifying reading. The Inter-American Commission on Human Rights issued a report covering the last 15 months, 600 documented murdered LGBT people in the Western Hemisphere, and half of them were trans women.
Mostly compiled from news reports and activists in the Americas. The primary victims were trans women and gay men. They said the women, lesbian women, bisexual women, are underreported because the attacks often come from their families.
All right. In AIDS news, just one big story this week. The FDA, the Food and Drug Administration, has proposed a new policy on blood donation by men who've had sex with men. You can donate if you've been celibate for a year. Someone called this replacing a homophobic ban with a homophobic ban. GMHC, Gay Men's Health Crisis, called this a de facto lifetime ban, offensive and harmful, stigmatizing. What we need is a risk-based policy with blood testing, not more categorization of men who had sex with men.
And that huge, horrible budget bill that they passed, the Congress slipped in once again a ban on federal funding for needle exchange programs, which has to be made up by local activists and health agencies. And also funding for HIV prevention dropped slightly.
Mm-hmm. All right, entertainment news. You saw a play.
I saw a play called Every Brilliant Thing.
Yes.
It stars the British comedian. It's at the Barrow Street Theatre in the Village through March. British comedian Johnny Donahoe, his name is. He's a man whose mother attempted suicide when he was 7 years old. Playing a man whose mother attempted suicide when he was 7 years old. So he immediately starts as a kid making a list of every brilliant thing in life, ice cream, cool breezes, that kind of stuff. And this goes on through his entire life. And he totally, you can see, totally involves the audience in this. And it's very life-affirming. I went with my friend Anthony Johnston, who's an actor. He said, this is better than anything I've seen on Broadway this year. And I pretty much agree. So treat yourself and start making your own list of things that are brilliant, and you'll be happier.
Probably not brilliant is the upcoming special on TLC, January 11th, mark your calendars, called My Husband's Not Gay. We're back to the Mormons in Utah. This is gay men marrying women and the couples talking about it. I think this will be a train wreck that is irresistible.
Good news from J.K. Rowling. She said she thinks Hogwarts is safe for LGBT students. She said, quote, if Harry Potter taught us anything, it's that no one should live in the closet. I didn't know that was the lesson from those movies or books, but there you are.
Well, I think that may be a good segue.
Well, just one more piece of news.
Okay.
Well, the Golden Globe nominations, my favorite movie of the year, Pride, about the gay activists aiding the striking minors, was nominated for Best Film in the Musical or Comedy category. I'd say it's more of a drama that's funny sometimes, but anyway, that's good
Well,
news.
it's British, so that'll be our segue, because our first video clip is British, and it's the story of a gay man entering the contest for Mr. Gay UK in the London area. Yes.
And this is a film by Jonothan McLeod, who has given us permission to run the whole film. It's about 10 minutes. And it's a fascinating story.
It's called Being Stavros, and it's about a Cypriot gay man living in London who decides to enter the contest. You'll see why it's interesting.
I'm Stavros, I'm 32 years of age. I'm from North London, Borough of Haringey, Tottenham. I've got various hobbies, like singing. I do a lot of karaoke.
Right, Stavros, up you up, yeah!
From a child, it was always been my dream to get on stage and perform, you know, to act, sing and dance. I've always had potential. My parents are Greek Cypriot from Cyprus. When I entered my early teenage years, my parents kept on about a thought in their minds of me having a massive Greek wedding and smashing plates, pinning money on me, you know. I first realised I was gay when I was age 13, 14. I got bullied when I first came out from school, from other pupils. Because of my size, they all reacted. He's gay because he's so fat. He can't get himself a woman, a girlfriend. That's the first thing they threw in my face. My weight is 30 stone. It's not my fault why I'm this size, why I'm so big. It's a medical reason and it's genetic. I come from a very big obesity family. Even now, when I attend gay bars, clubs and cruising areas, people are picking on me and insulting me because of my obesity. They say to me, how have I got so big? How I ended up being such a beast.
Nobody told me there was a bouncy castle.
They swear at me, they throw sarcastic remarks.
Fucking hell, Susan Boyle's in the audience, you're out, love.
I've got a big crush on Zach from High School Musical. I think he's gorgeous and amazing. I would love to meet a guy just like him, you know. I'm single at the moment. Well, I have dated. It's been with bisexual guys. I'm looking more of a one-to-one relationship with a gay guy now. And that's always been my dream, you know, to have more of a one-to-one relationship with somebody. Maybe this might help me find a good boyfriend, you never know. I entered Mr. Gay UK. My main reason to enter and go that night was just hoping, you know, Mr. Right was out there for me. You know, to be happy, which everybody deserves a bit of happiness. When I walked through the doors, people were just looking around, you know, and kept staring, laughing at first. Didn't know what to really think of it, really. I just asked the barman, can I fill in a form? And I did, you know.
But it's going to be a little bit like Miss World on acid tonight, ladies and gentlemen.
I wanted to shock the community and the society, especially the gay community, you know. I didn't want to hide what I was. I'm proud of, you know, being a gay man. The other guys were muscly, tall, slim, sexy. I did get a few reactions from them. Like, mate, you'll never get through. You'll never do it, you know. Like, look at you know.
They actually said that?
Yes, some of them did. There was 3 judges, an actor and 2 other magazine editors.
As the 3 judges, we eliminated one at a time. And Stavros was doing really well. He was really funny. He was taking part and the crowd were behind him. He was having a good time. We were having a good time.
A couple of guys were eliminated, and then the next final round was in underwear. They just flung a pair of underwear and vest at me, and they said the only size we got, mate, is a small and medium.
I didn't know this competition was sponsored by an underwear company. I was not aware of that.
I was very surprised. I didn't know what to do, you know, at first. There was no way of them fitting. They were tiny, you know.
Stavros came out wearing pair of underpants on his head. The rules didn't state that Stavros had to wear the pants around his groin. You know what I mean? Good thinking, Stavros. Stick them on your head, mate. Absolutely. So we're down to the last round, and the rules of the competition state that the final round could be thrown open to the crowd.
But ladies and gentlemen, it is in fact you, the audience, that decide who is the representative for Mr. Gay UK 2012, sponsored by Nick Underwear.
The other guy, he got a big cheer, a really nice cheer, so he was very happy. I think he thought he was probably going to win. And then she put her hand on Stavros.
I thought people would laugh at me, boo, throw abusive language at me.
Cheer on, contestant number 2 to be Mr. Gay UK.
And the crowd went mental. God, they screamed the place down.
It was very hard to accept it and believe it at first. I thought, yes, I'm going to be the winner. That's what I felt inside, really, you know, so glad and happy.
So, ladies and gentlemen, will you please give it up for your Mr. Gay UK representative, Stavros!
They were just screaming, they were shouting out my name, Stavros, Stavros! You know, it was like being at the O2 Arena, you know, it was an amazing atmosphere. I couldn't believe my luck at first, you know. Just, I thought all my luck came true, tables were turning.
Representing the London Heat of Mr. Gay UK, Stavros! Stavros, right down in everyone. It's down to you guys.
So this is the magazine where they sort of recap the week's events at the different clubs in London. Black Cap, Mr. Gay UK, here we are. This year's London Heat of Mr. Gay UK was held last night at a packed Black Cap in Camden, and what a show it was. The contestants ranged from very sexy hunks and cute twinks to ones with less obvious charms.
In the end, the winner was the Dish Martin, who won the crowd with his hot dancing and hotter bod. Well done to all who took part.
And then the last picture here is the other 2 judges with the runner-up, with a winner's medal around his neck, and I was like, he wasn't the winner, that's not the winner.
What they're trying to do is say that I don't exist, I wasn't there. They're saying that they took me out of the competition because the underwear wasn't to fit my size.
They embarrassed him on stage and he took it all in fun. If they have a problem with guys of his size entering a competition whereby he might end up modelling their underwear, they need to state in their rules somewhere, as wrong as I think it would be, that guys over 12 stone without a six-pack are not allowed to enter our competition.
Affected me emotionally, mentally, you know, because it was like a knockback and I felt it wasn't fair.
He doesn't fit their remit of Mr. Gay UK. Tough tits.
After all the fighting that's gone on before to gain equality, it seems to be the gay community turning on one of their own.
I bet he's turning in his grave, which is more than you could do.
I think it's terrible. And I hate that I have unwittingly been involved in making him feel like that.
I don't think it's fair because I did win the title as Mr. Gay UK London.
One of the lasting memories I'll have of that night was Stavros being cheered on by a crowd that was 200% behind him. Whatever happens now, they can't take that away from him.
At the end of the day, that's what I really wanted. I wanted to say to people, I'm proud of who I am, what I am, whatever I look like. Proud of being Stavros, you know.
And thanks again to director Jonothan McLeod for letting us run his film.
You know, it's so sad and unbelievable that they would be so blatant in doing that. And it's the corporate sponsor who did it. It's this underwear company that didn't want to be associated with him.
And it's also appalling the way with people of size, the way just people openly, blatantly say things right in front of him to his face.
Unbelievable.
Like, you know, like it's okay, like you're supposed to take it. It's the cheapest thing. Look, late night comedians do it too. They make Chris Christie fat jokes. It's awful. So good on this guy for standing up for himself, for being out there.
And to me, it's also a chance to humanize someone who is regarded as an inhuman stereotype of some sort. It's nice to have a chance to hear from him directly rather than have him discussed as an object. So I loved the film and loved him and thought he was a terrific person, and I'm glad we had a chance to introduce you to him.
I had a brother who was very heavy-set, as they say, when he was a little kid.
Yeah.
And he says, and he's not now, but he says, you never forget how they treated you.
I think we can all say that in one way or another from various aspects. And so at this season, we're trying to reinforce in our own heavy-handed way that message of do unto others as you would like them to do unto you.
Now, you've discovered another video that
I think this one is just so charming. It's totally irresistible, and it crossed my path a couple of months ago, and I held on to it because I just, I think it will just put a smile on everyone's face. And it's the story of a gay couple in Australia. And what makes them interesting is that they are cowboys and not the usual gay couple that you see in the news or around here. So here are the gay cowboys of Australia.
I grew up on farms. I come from far north Queensland. Being on the land is in my blood. I joined the rodeo circuit when I was 14 and 15 and 16. The coming out process for me was a bit different because I couldn't see myself living, you know, with a partner on the land and farming and associating with other, you know, with other farmers and be gay at the same time. It didn't seem to fit together for me, so I changed, and for about 10 years I didn't do any of that stuff. I moved to the city. I tried to listen to music that everyone else was listening to. I tried to dress like everyone else was dressing. So I spent a lot of years, I guess, conforming to, you know, a stereotype of what I thought that a gay person was. You know, Mickey came along, and that was really the start of me realising that I could have both.
So at the end of '09, I quit my job in Melbourne and took off travelling around Australia. Several months later, ended up in North Queensland, and that's where we met.
I'm not going to go and say something gooey like it was love at first sight, but it was pretty close.
After a year or so, we left North Queensland and travelled much of the rest of the country together. We both realised at that point that this was where we wanted to live, and we've been here ever since.
We live on a 155-acre beef cattle property in the Northern Rivers area of New South Wales. There's a mix of pasture and steep country.
It's absolutely wonderful. The landscape is incredible. There's so many smells and sounds, you know. First thing in the morning, the kookaburras start, and then we get all the rainforest birds that come in, and the roosters start to crow.
The mist is extraordinary here because we're in a valley. It sort of comes across like a curtain. It's really incredible. On a regular day on this farm, Mickey and I would get up just before sunrise,
and then the morning sort of ritual commences.
I think a lot of the time people think that, you know, we sit on the veranda and watch storms come in, and we go for nice long leisurely rides and, you know, look at cows all day and enjoy that, you know, lovely energy. But it's pretty hard work, and it can be dangerous, I guess, as well.
Far out. That's hail, Dan. Shit. You know, things are moving fast. Get up there. Up.
So when half of them go in, just walk straight through the middle
and a cow flicks her tail or kicks out, and you end up with a face full of shit, quite literally.
the mess and the dirt and the cattle shit and all of that, that it covers you by the end of the day. It's just everywhere. Of course there's pressure. We fight over, you know, where something's going to go or what priority certain things are or whatever.
What do you want to do?
We're just waiting for them to eat.
Oh, okay. Yeah, but do you want the horses away because are we putting them through the race straight after
next.
this?
Yeah.
We're really no different in that regard. We fight just like any other couple would. Ooh, up.
Mickey, what?
Dan, what am I supposed to do about it?
No big deal. Sorry for shouting.
Thanks. And we make up just like any other couple would.
Then we'll also have that bringing togetherness of you know, experiencing a calf being born or having a great ride on an afternoon or taking the horses for a swim.
Dan will often say, look, just remember, you know, it's tough, it's hard work, and, you know, we'll get through it, sort of thing. And we do. I love being here. I love having the animals around and having my partner there too, and learning in the whole experience as well. You know, I'm not an experienced farmer. I'm a city boy turned farmer. I suppose this place for me is where I'm most comfortable. I feel at home and I feel, yeah, at peace.
You've got it around the wrong way, bro. Okay, that's great. She's just an old thing. She doesn't like to
have to listen.
Have to do anything, really. For people that say that you can't do certain things because you're gay, this isn't a crusade for me to prove that I can be a gay cowboy or anything like that. I'm just someone who, you know, enjoys this environment and this particular lifestyle with the man that I love.
Outback Mountain?
You know, I looked at that and I thought, the one person I know who would never want to live like that is Andy.
Like that? Out in nature? You know.
Yeah? When have you been out in nature?
You just... I played many a round of golf with you out in the countryside.
Barely. But I thought only lesbians liked horses and wanted to be out on the range.
Hey.
I find that life extremely appealing, except I don't want to work that hard taking care of the cows. I'd be more of the gentleman rancher without the...
Or like Isaac Dinesen and out of Africa.
Well, you know, my brother lives in north central Massachusetts on a farm and raises sheep and trains border collies and all of that.
So?
And the people who live around him are a lot of gay men. He's straight, he has a wife, they run the farm, but it's a very gay male community.
Well, you know, I think some gay people worry about living in more isolated areas of the country.
Sure.
We remember the saga of, was it Camp Sister Spirit or something in Mississippi, where they were terrorized essentially by people in the area. But others are, sometimes in smaller areas, we hear about a gay person being elected the mayor of a town of 40 people, that kind of stuff. Because
the local hairdresser.
Right, because it's just like, you know, you're just one of us. You're not like part of a big group that's threatening us or anything, and you're us.
Well, I just thought it would be nice to take a look at that other lifestyle.
Yes, something to think about.
Yes. By the way, we just got a report, Outsports, which is the LGBT sports-oriented organization, announced that 109 people in the publicly discussed sports world came out in 2014. I think that's quite an incremental increase.
Yes.
So congratulations to them.
Lots of coming out.
Yeah.
Lots of our viewers came out this year, too, and did things.
And because this is the Christmas weekend, I know you're seeing us on Christmas night or a day or two after. Presumably this weekend will all feel like Christmas. But I wanted to trot out something we ran a couple of years ago, because I think it's the best contemporary Christmas song, and it's performed in a very gay way, lip-synced by British sailors, male and female, on a British ship. You'll recognize the tune when you hear it, and I'm willing to run this every year. Maybe
it's
even
a holiday tradition here at Gay USA.
June, because I think it's so irresistible and so gay. But here is our favorite contemporary Christmas carol.
One a lot for Christmas. There is just one thing I need. I don't care about the presents underneath the Christmas tree. I just want you for my own, more than you could ever know. Make my wish come true. All I want for Christmas is you.
For those of you listening on the podcast, that was the crew of the HMS Ocean, Her Majesty's ship.
Now, that was a couple of years old, but I do think it's irresistible. But I'm happy to run other holiday gay versions of anything if you want to alert us to any. You got anything for Valentine's Day or Ramadan or Easter or Hanukkah
Gay Pride
next
Day?
year? Or
LGBT Pride?
Oh, we love it when our viewers alert us to things that are amusing or entertaining or thoughtful or whatever. So feel free to write to andyhum@aol.com with any of your suggestions or just to get on our weekly email list, we will send you one email a week alerting you to what's on this show.
And I will send you links to these videos if you'd like to share them with your friends.
Yeah.
Because, of course, it'll be on our show, and you can go to our website, www.gayusatv.org, and you can see the latest show, hear the podcast, read all about us, if you'd like.
Get the history of the show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All those kinds of things.
All right.
And of course, the Salvation Army, by the way, I left this story out, but the Salvation Army was sort of trying to make peace because I guess their donations were going down. And, they're trying to act like they're really affirmative of gay people in some way.
Well, fill them in a little on the history.
Well, Salvation Army is like most Christian churches, has a position against gays. But they do run a lot of social services, and they're trying to say we don't discriminate in services, and we don't
But they used to, and that
Yes.
was the big beef, that
Yes.
they discriminated against same-sex couples in services, and they discriminated
Yes.
against gay employees by not giving them benefits for their partners or whatever.
So a leaked document was discovered this week that shows that the new pro-LGBT campaign was just spin. It says anyone who marries outside the of a man-woman marriage can't have leadership positions in the organization, and anyone not married must not have sex. But officers of the Salvation Army can go to same-sex weddings, but not in uniform.
Undercover.
So they've opened the door a little bit. We would like to open the door wide to everyone.
For everything.
Yes.
Yeah.
Can't we all get along? Well, we're living in a tough time here in New York, and I know it's a national story, but all the tension between police and community, the horrible murders of the police, the horrible, brutality of the police in some cases, which we've been protesting.
Yeah.
And it's been very, very tense here. And
well, I think one of the most disturbing things is this competing urge to blame the killings of the two police officers, the assassination, I agree with that, of the two police officers, on either side.
Right.
One side wants to blame police brutality for that. The police want to blame the demonstrators for that.
I've been part of the protests, and up until now, I've been part of the protests. I didn't hear some of these things, which they've recorded, which people do say some terrible things sometimes. I wish our protests could be more dignified.
Yep.
And we need moral force on our side to beat and we need police reform. And I think most police officers want police reform where they don't have to do brutal things. Don't forget, there's a very high suicide rate among police, for some of the things they have to do.
And ironically, this is all happening in the context of a city and a world, I think, where crime is decreasing.
Yeah.
And yet this tension exists. So I've always thought the police were afraid in many cases because they saw themselves as the last line of defense against chaos and anarchy in the world, and that led them to this.
We've started a very long discussion. My goodness. Merry Christmas to you too.
We will see you next week. We very much appreciate your viewership and correspondence with us over the year. Happy New Year to all of you, and we'll be right back here at the same old station next week.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.